welcome. My name is Anna Bryce, and I am the VP of Programming here at AMA Phoenix. And we're thrilled to have you with us, joining us for this webinar. I know I'm really looking forward to this topic and to hear Pam speak. So welcome, everyone. And just to real quick take care of some little details, I would like to thank our sponsors who really support us and have been supporting us over the years. I particularly want to point out Financial Potion and Taylor Wellman, who is our host. If you have a need for video production, please consider giving Taylor a call, and I can always give you her contact information if you need it. And lastly, we would like to thank our supporters. These are the companies who employ our board members, and without them and their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do to bring this programming to you. So we thank them. And I just would like to get right into introducing our speaker, Pam Aungst, and she is joining us from New Jersey, and actually from my old hometown of West Milford, New Jersey. So welcome, Pam, and thank you for joining us. And just a little bit about Pam. She is the president of Pam and Marketing, and also the founder of Stealth Search and Analytics. And she is an expert in search engine optimization, pay-per-click advertising, and digital analytics. And this is one thing that I love. She is a self-proclaimed geek, starting her journey into computer programming at the very young age at 6. So I know that I'm going to learn a lot from her, because all of this is such a science, and I'm more the creative side and the strategic side. So getting to the digital side is always really interesting to me. She's been working professionally in this field since 2005, and she launched her own agency in 2011. So without any further delay, I would like to introduce Pam, and I am really anxious to figure out this mystery of being able to write great content for both humans and the search engine. So Pam, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, and for that very kind introduction. I was blushing a little bit because I geek as a compliment, geek or nerd. Anytime somebody refers to me that way, I'm like, oh, thank you. So anyway, Anna introduced me, and so I'll skip over who I am and let's get right to what we're talking about today. I've got a whole bunch of information to throw at you really quickly, and so it's going to be kind of like a fire hose to the face of information, but like they said, you're going to get the recording afterwards, and you're going to get the slides afterwards, and I just want to make sure we also leave time for questions at the end. Pardon my young puppy in the background. She's been good all day until right now, of course, but such is our virtual work world now. The slides will be sent out afterwards, but if you want to get them now, or just jot this down to get them right afterwards, you can get them at stealthsearch.com and click on slides. I'll leave that up for just a moment. And then I'm going to skip over my next slide, which is the who am I, because Anna just gave a nice overview of that. So let's get right to what we're talking about today. Actually, I'd like to start with what we're not going to talk about today, what we're going to learn not to do, which is this keyword stuffing. Isn't this what comes to mind when you have, when you think of optimizing copy for keywords? It's like stuffing in things the way people search on Google, and it just doesn't read right, doesn't look right. It just is so obvious that it was written for a search engine and not a human. So this is what we're going to learn how not to do today, but it is possible to achieve satisfaction for both audiences, getting those keywords in there, but not in this way, in this obnoxious way. Instead, I'm going to go over my formula for success, which I know this is really like zoomed out and small and detailed right now, but we're going to go through it step by step. So it's just a 30,000-foot view right now of the process that we use internally to optimize copy for our clients so that it satisfies both search engines and humans. And so we'll go through this step by step. But first, a little more 30,000-foot view background. I always say, as the title of the presentation says, that your website has two audiences. One is obviously humans, and the other is search engines. But let's talk a little bit about what each of those audiences want out of your website. Humans want high quality advice out of your website content, natural sounding language that they can easily read and understand, short, digestible snippets of information. And basically, once we get to the next slide here, you'll see that it's the same up until that third point. What do search engines want? High quality advice, natural sounding language. That's where it differs though. The short digestible snippets of information are not the search engine's favorite thing. They're the human's favorite thing. Search engines like words. I have to tell people that all the time, especially when working with designers who have designed a gorgeous, beautiful new homepage for a website, but it has no words on it. So I'm like, unfortunately, search engines like words. They only understand words. They can't understand anything other than words. So search engines do tend to favor long length, thousands of words. The average Google first page result is 1,890 words. Now, don't panic. I'm not going to make you write every single page at that length. Would never recommend that. Appropriate length for appropriate places is also an important point. So you don't have to make every single, page like your home page or a e-commerce product page. Like you don't have to go to that length on every piece of content, but you do have to have some meaty content on your site because search engines love long length and lots of words. But again, whole theme of the whole thing is that we can compromise and we can satisfy both. So let's start to talk about exactly how to do that compromise. Quick overview, and again, we're going to go through the exact formula for success bit by bit, but quick overview of how this compromising gets done. First, similar to any essay writing class anyone's ever taken, you want to start by picking a specific number of points that you want to make about a certain topic. It's going to kind of serve as the framework for a piece of content. Then write thoroughly about each point so that the word count is high, but break down each point with subheadings so that it's easily skimmable and digestible. It's a big difference. This is where, the design and the art side of things, it's art and science. The art comes in here with a huge difference between, something that looks like a 1,000-word piece that's just words and looks like a term paper, or something that's chunked up in nice spaced paragraphs with subheadings and visuals. So, a paragraph with a subheading and a visual, and then another subheading visual, it breaks it up. Think about modern website design. It's kind of like a bit of this here, a bit of that there. You can end up with a lot of words on a page and not have it look like a lot of words. That's what will scare your humans away. So that's the high level of how to do this compromise. So let's talk about some more specifics for each audience. Again, I know I'm going fast, fire hose to the face. I just want to make sure to get through it all. We can go back and talk about any specific point at any time when we get to the Q&A, or put the questions in the chat now, and I can always go back to a certain point to clarify anything. Okay, so details on how to write for humans. As we said already, provide high quality advice in natural sounding language, break down with subtitles by key point. And here's something that is kind of mostly specific to humans, but can kind of in a trickle down way help with search engine optimization, and that's using catchy titles. So catchy titles will make users click on them, right? And that's ultimately what you want. Now, the fact that a user clicks on something isn't necessarily in and of itself an SEO ranking factor, but if search engines see a lot of users clicking on a certain result and they don't see those users bouncing back to Google, we call that a pogo sticking. If they don't pogo stick right back to where they started from, then Google, and I refer to Google all the time, but search engines in general, they all follow Google's lead, but search engine technology will see that a lot of people are clicking on this and sticking, clicking and sticking. That will have a trickle down good effect on SEO. So you want to use your titles, you want to use catchy titles to make your humans interested, but that in turn will also look impressive to search engines. So how do you make titles catchy? One trick that you probably know by now, because it's everywhere, is including a number, a numerical number in the title, like with regard to your number of points. So in this example, top 5 marketing strategies for success. That number 5, not being spelled out FIVE, but being in there as a number, I don't even know why, just psychologically it's been proven to work. People are more likely to click on it. My theory is that, I'm kind of inferring that, oh, it's X amount of points, so it's only going to take me X amount of time to read. Like, I'll be able to skim this quickly. It's not going to be a term paper that I'm going to land on. I'm going to be able to skim those 5 things and get those 5 things right away. So that number in the title definitely works. Adding a sense of exclusivity or urgency is also another thing that definitely works for humans. Like, there are only 3 ways to increase online sales. I mean, don't you immediately want to know? I want to know what those are. There's only 3. That's all I need to know. So that, exclusivity of like, there only being these 3 secrets to whatever, or, the kind of mystery to, or urgency to the title is definitely effective as well. Identifying your audience is also very effective. If I'm a contractor and I see an article titled Essential Marketing for Contractors, I'm going to be like, oh, that's me. I want to click on that. And it's going to speak right to me. So that works as well. And including the results of your advice in the title, the what's in it for me or what's in it for them. What are they going to get out of reading this? So in the second example there, basically increasing online sales is what they're going to get out of it. So we are talking about making content appeal to humans, and then which kind of has a trickle down effect of appealing to search engines. So we talked about catchy titles. One last thing, oops, lost my ability to proceed here. Go, do the thing. There we go. Okay, one last tip for making catchy titles is using power words. Power words are words like these. There are seemingly endless lists of power words online that you can look up, and some of them are going to get like into that clickbaity realm. And I'm not necessarily suggesting that you go that far, like shocking or breakthrough, if it's appropriate for what you're writing, I guess, but don't try to make everything shocking and breakthrough and the ultimate blah blah blah. You know what clickbait stuff titles look like, and they stand out just the same way that initial example that I showed with the keyword stuffing stands out. So you don't want to overdo it, for sure, but there's plenty of these that can be used quite subtly. Like, here are 3 tips to make your website outperform others. Outperform being a power word that didn't sound, clickbaity in that example. So power words are very effective at making titles catchy. All right, now, how to write for search engines. And again, we're going to get to that exact formula for putting these pieces together, just going through the one audience at a time, and then we'll mesh it all together. All right, so we went through in detail writing for humans, now writing for search engines. Again, as we said before, same as humans, want to give thorough advice, but in this case, we're doing so in order to make the word count higher. You want to naturally incorporate what I call right-sized keywords that people actually search for. Now, what do I mean by right-sized keywords? Basically, right-sized keywords are keywords that you found through a keyword research tool where you've identified that people actually type it in that way and how often they type it in that way. But that how often part referred to here as volume should be at or below your monthly SEO traffic number. SEO traffic, aka organic traffic. Now, this isn't an exact science, but it's a It's a practice of right sizing, making sure you're reaching for keywords that are attainable for your site right now. So again, this isn't an exact science. It's a loose recommendation, a loose guideline that I give my clients so that they are not picking keywords that they don't have any chance in the world of showing up for. It's because the logic behind this is that if search engines were willing to rank your site for keywords that are like 90,000, searched 90,000 times a month, you'd probably have 5 figures worth of SEO traffic already. So if you don't, you're not quite there yet where the search engines are willing to rank you for such a highly searched term. It's a matter of working your way up over time. So try to pick right-sized keywords that are actually attainable for you right now. So, and I'll give an example of that. But first, I'll go over how to find your monthly SEO traffic number. Presumably you have Google Analytics on your site. Hardly meet a site these days that doesn't have Google Analytics on it. If you don't have it, highly recommend setting it up right away. And then once you have it, you're going to go into Google Analytics and go to the acquisition menu, then click on all traffic, and then channels. This is by far one of my favorite reports in Google Analytics because it gives such a nice 30,000-foot view of where all your traffic is coming from, like what type of sources are sending traffic to your site. By default, Google Analytics will show you the last 7 days of traffic, which for most people isn't really enough data to be useful. So you want to change that to the last 30 days. So you go to acquisition, all traffic, channels, flip to the last 30 days, and then look for organic search in the list of sources that come up there and look at the number. So in this case, the example shows that this site got 583 visits of organic search traffic in the last 30 days. So that's kind of what I would use in this case as the rough ballpark for making sure that I pick keywords for this client that are actually going to work for them, that aren't overshooting, shooting for the moon, but then not getting there. So then you go to a keyword research tool. This one right here is my favorite. It is a paid tool, so I'll give some other options for unpaid tools, but this one is by far my favorite if you're going to get deep into this stuff, and it's not expensive. The plans start at $30 a month. It's kwfinder.com, and like I said, it's paid, but I think you can actually run a couple of test searches for free if you don't have an account. Other free sources include Ubersuggest, Keywords Everywhere. Actually, Ubersuggest isn't as free as it used to be, I don't think, but Keywords Everywhere is a Chrome browser extension that gives a lot of keyword data for free. SEMrush is another good one that is paid, but lets you do like X number of searches per day for free. So there's a wide variety of keyword research tools out there. Moz, of course, another popular one. It's very good. I like this one for a variety of reasons because I use it all the time. But anyway, any tool you have access to, even if it's just the free Keywords Everywhere browser extension, look up the keyword that you're thinking about using for your piece of content and look for a keyword, key phrase. I always do that. After all these years, I still say keyword for multiple words. A key phrase, which is made up of multiple words, that has a search volume at or below that monthly traffic number that you saw. So we saw 583. Now, this one here is 90 because the client wanted to write about AC compressor failure. Just typed that in and it's 90. And so that would work. It's not overshooting for them. Now it is a bit under, but that's okay. Rather be under than over. The idea with the right size keywords is to not overshoot. It's just a quick double check to make sure you're not overshooting, picking something that's not even remotely attainable for the site. It actually is good to go under. The further under, the easier it will be to get found for those keywords once you put them in your content. And that's how you build up a little at a time to be able to go after the bigger keywords. So AC compressor failure in this case, searched 90 times per month, plenty below our max of 583. And so we decided that that will be the primary keyword for the article. After that, you do want to also incorporate secondary or AKA related key phrases that show context. Google has said in like patents that they're applying for that they want to become more of a topical match engine as opposed to a simplistic singular keyword match engine. So they want to present content in search results that fully covers the topic. So you need to include more than just one key phrase in order to show that you're fully covering the topic. So you want to pick a couple of others that are related to the main keyword you chose that are related, that you can incorporate in that article, that are kind of elements of that topic. So in this case, I continued to look through my keyword research tool, and I found symptoms of AC compressor failure and causes of AC compressor failure. I was like, that's perfect. We can easily incorporate those into the article, and it will make it clear that we're covering the topic holistically. And then another thing you can do if you aren't using a keyword research tool, or just in addition to a keyword research tool, is to type the primary keyword that you picked into Google and look at the search suggest recommendations, those extra words that come up at the bottom. So in this case, 2 of them were the same as my keyword research tool told me, but then I found a third one, which would be reasons. So I had symptoms and causes, and now I'm like, yeah, I could naturally incorporate the word reasons as well. So I picked those 3 as the secondary keywords. Then you just want to do a quick double check before you finalize your keyword selections for any piece of content by Googling them, fully Googling them, not just looking at the preview like I showed before, but fully Googling them to make sure that the results look like the right topic and the right type of content. So in this case, there was results that were like article format about air conditioner compressor failure, which was spot on for what we were going for. It sounds a little obvious, but sometimes you'll be surprised at things that you Google because you're totally sure in your own mind that that phrase means that thing. And then you Google it and you can be surprised at what Google thinks that phrase means. Like one time, I forget the exact acronym, but there was an acronym that in my client's world meant one very clear thing. And then I Googled it and it turned out to be like something about farming as opposed to marketing. Like it was just like, wow, okay. So Google has a totally different understanding of that than I do. There's also another one that was, what was it? It was like flame juice or something. I forget what it was, but it was a video game. It was part of a video game. And so the person was like, oh yeah, no, that's exactly what that means. And it's just double check, Google it. And it turns out it was like an adult spicy cocktail or something that Google thought it meant. The results had nothing to do with video games. So if you're writing with a certain phrase, trying to get found for a certain topic, but Google associates that term with a different topic, it's not going to work out. So quick double check of the context to make sure that Google's understanding of the term is the same as yours. Okay, take a breath and then go through in detail the formula for doing this exactly. I gave you the tips on writing for humans, the general tips on writing for search engines. Now we're going to go through step by step exactly how we do this. Okay, so it starts with using, so basically I went over how to find the good keywords, primaries and secondaries already. So we're talking about now we're getting to the writing part, how to write successfully for both humans and search engines. So you want to use your primary keyword, that first one you picked that you made sure was right sized, in the title and repeat it in the opening paragraph. So in this case, 5 symptoms of AC compressor failure is the title of the article. Sounds perfectly natural to put that in there. And then in the first sentence, we're just introducing, same as the essay writing, you pick the key points, you add an introduction and a conclusion. We're just introducing what we're going to talk about. So it sounds perfectly natural to state in the opening paragraph of the article that this is what we're going to talk about. So there's 2 uses of the primary keyword already, both sounding perfectly natural. Then you want to introduce your number of key points that you decided you're going to make in a quick overview, like bullets. And you can naturally put a little subhead over those bullets saying, here's the 5 things, or incorporating that number again, right? For the humans that love that number, here's the 5 things or the 3 things or the 10 things that we're going to go over in this article, and just give them in list format first. And that little subhead's a perfectly natural place to use your primary keyword again. Then you go into your writing, the meat of the article, break it down by each key point, break out each one. If there's 5 things, break down those 5 things in a minimum of 5 paragraphs or a couple of paragraphs for each key point. Include the primary keyword naturally whenever you can, not like that first example, squeezing it in every opportunity you can think of, just naturally. Just keep it in mind to squeeze it in naturally whenever you can. And also, you want to pepper in your secondary and related keywords at this point as you're writing the bulk of the copy, just 1 or 2 times each. Try to touch upon those. We're trying to use the primary one the most, which is why we call it primary, making it clear that this article is about this thing primarily, but the secondaries are important, as we discussed. So just pepper them in whenever you have an opportunity to. Then you want to write a conclusion. Again, it's kind of essay writing 101. Your main points go in the middle. You tack on an introduction and a conclusion. But a conclusion is a perfectly natural place to use those primary keywords again. Subhead of the conclusion and paragraph of the conclusion. So in conclusion, as we've discussed, this is, this could be why you're experiencing AC compressor failure, or whatever it may be. I'm not a writer, as you can tell, so my on-the-fly examples aren't what the copywriters in the audiences would be. But I describe us as more of like architects of the content. We leave it to copywriters. I mean, we have a copywriter on staff, but often we work with our clients' copywriters to do the art part. We're more the science part. But these placements, we've worked with a lot of copywriters on a lot of different types of content over a lot of years, and this is doable for them. We haven't really met many copywriters that felt too constrained by these guidelines. So that's why we call it our formula for success. Okay, so lastly, I want to talk about, well, not totally lastly, but as far as when you're writing, last point about the primary keyword would be, you do want to pay attention to word count. Now, there's a huge discrepancy, a huge kind of debate in the SEO world as to whether keyword density, meaning like the count of your SEO keywords as compared to the total word count of the piece, if that density matters or not. It does and it doesn't, in that, it doesn't matter the way that it used to, that you have to hit an exact percentage, but it does matter if you overdo it. It will hurt you if you overdo it. And we've seen plenty of times, if you underdo it, the search engines will not understand what you're talking about. So you do have to strike, again, rough guideline, rough, loose balance in the middle. Doesn't have to be exact, but so the guidelines that we give in order to make sure you're not underdoing it or overdoing it is to aim for using your primary keyword at least 1 time per 100 words, but don't exceed 2 times per 100 words. So that's basically a 1% to 2% density. So if you had a piece that was 1,000 words, the minimum would be 10 times that you want to use your primary keyword, but don't use it more than 20 times. Then you're getting dangerously close to that first example of just stuff. And that can actually hurt you more than help you in SEO. So density, if SEO people tell you, oh, it doesn't matter, this and that, just logically, just roughly think about it. If you don't use it enough, the search engine's not going to know what you're talking about. And if you use it too much, they're going to flag you for keyword stuffing. So you have to use some kind of guidelines barometer to land in the middle. And that's what we use. Okay, quick FAQ about FAQs. Question phrases are very tricky. If you're going through your keyword research tool, thinking about the topic that you want to write, and the key phrase you want to use is a question, that's pretty tricky, because the formula that I just gave would require repeating that question quite several times, which in phrases that aren't a question is pretty easy to do and still looks naturally. But when you're peppering in a question that many times, it starts to look ridiculous really fast. So what can you do? You should use the question in question format as much as looks natural. So, title, subheads, maybe the conclusion subheading, but you can then kind of flip it around into answer format. So in here, you'll see, what can affect ovulation. That's taking, well, actually, that's in that case, that's the same question. Here's the reword. Can affect ovulation. So what can affect ovulation is a question. The answer to that question is X can affect ovulation, Y can affect ovulation, Z can affect ovulation. So it's okay to flip it around into an answer format, and that still counts as you using primary keywords. And again, like I said, the conclusion subhead is another perfectly natural place to use it in full question format. So use it in full question format wherever it looks natural, but flip it around to answer format for anywhere else that you need to put it in. Okay, bonus points, and then we're gonna get to questions. Images. As I said in the beginning, search engines only know what words mean. So there's some bonus points to be had by using keywords in your imagery. And there's two different ways that you can do this. One is the first thing shown here, which is the image file name. This is a no-brainer. Like, instead of uploading an image to go with your piece that
Hey, Lori, how you doing?
Oh, hi. All right. Don't know what that was and if we're good on that, but I'm going to keep going. We're good. All right. So file name. So no brainer. Instead of uploading an image that's titled img_80537.jpg, why not rename the image with your keyword that you chose, your primary keyword? In this example, running an effective meeting. .jpg. So, and you want to use hyphens instead of underscores. That's the one kind of technical tip here. But just even if nothing else, just don't upload images that are like IMGDSCABY23. Put keywords in there. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. And then the second place is the image alt tag, which often known as alt text. When you upload the image to your content management system, very often these days it's WordPress, there should be a spot that says alternative text. And this is an opportunity to use your primary keyword again, if and only if you can use it in what is an accurate description of the image. So this is not an SEO thing, this is an ADA thing, but ADA is the law. That's the Americans with Disabilities Act. Section 508 that addresses website design and accessibility says that you need to include image alt tags that accurately describe the image, because people who are visually impaired or blind, they use screen reader software to read off the content of a website page to them audibly, and that screen reader software will read this text as the description of the image. So it's important, first and foremost, legally and just morally and ethically, to include an accurate description of the image. Accuracy is number one. If you can find a way to weasel that primary keyword into an accurate description of the image, then bonus points for SEO. But again, let the accuracy trump everything in this regard. But if you can, like this, picture of a man not running an effective meeting, parentheses, his audience is asleep. That is a perfectly accurate description of that image and contains the primary keyword, which in this example was running an effective meeting. So image file names, image alt text, if and only if it can be incorporated as an accurate description, as part of an accurate description of the image. Okay, final fire hose to the face overview. The formula for success that we went through, one step at a time. This is what we went through, but one last overview. Keyword and topic selection is the very beginning. You want to pick a few key points about a topic, a few key points you want to make for your humans. And then for your search engines, select a right-sized key phrase that is the way people search for that thing, but does not exceed your existing monthly SEO traffic number. Then your titles are the next component to work on for your humans. You want to make them catchy, either with the quantity of key points, sense of exclusivity or urgency, audience identification, like the contractor thing, and or power words. And for your humans, you want to use your primary keyword in the title. That's pretty easy. Opening paragraph for your humans, summarize the intent of the article so they know what to expect from it and can skim it if they want. And for search engines, use your primary keyword in that opening paragraph. Quick overview of key points under that is the bulleted section. Here's the 5 points or the 10 things or whatever you're going to learn in this article. list out the key points. So again, humans can skim if they want to. And then for for search engines, easy place to include the primary keyword naturally. Then it's the breakdown of each key point, which is the body of the piece. Give good, useful information about each key point. Humans, of course, want that. And then for search engines, use both your primaries and your secondaries as naturally as possible, but as often as possible throughout the copy, using that rough barometer of the minimum 1, maximum 10 for the primaries. Secondaries only need 1 use each, really, maybe 2. Then your conclusion subheading, perfectly natural place to repeat the intent of the article in summary form, kind of drive the point home for humans, but also use that primary keyword naturally. And conclusion paragraph, same thing, summarize the key points, reiterate the most important takeaways for your humans, and perfectly natural place to use your primary keyword one last time. And one thing I didn't mention before, but I will tack on here, is always, always, always end with a call to action. Humans don't do anything unless, compelled to. And yeah, they may be compelled on their own to take the next step that you want them to take, whether that's downloading an ebook or going to your services page or going to your contact page. But studies have shown they're so much more statistically likely to do that if you specifically tell them to do it. Were you interested in this article on AC compressor failure? Well, click here to download our guide on HVAC preventative maintenance, our ebook, whatever it may be. And that gives you an opportunity to link to a related page, which internal linking, whole separate area of SEO than copywriting, but in short, linking similar pages, similar topics pages to each other on a website is a good thing for SEO. So this call to action also has a human and search engine purpose in that your humans will be more likely to do what you want to do, and search engines will be more likely to see multiple different related pieces of content on your website, making you look like a holistic topical match instead of a simplistic keyword match. And the bonus points, of course, the images, file name, alt text, if you can use it in a way that accurately describes the image. Whew, I'm going to breathe. And I haven't looked at the questions, but I'm sure we have some. So now would be the time for that.
Wow, my goodness, Pam, great work. That was amazing. Tons of content. We definitely have quite a few questions, but if anyone else has questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat. We're just going to go ahead and get started with a few questions we have right now. One came from Ben. Can the title of the page or article be different than my designated SEO title that you set maybe using a system like Yoast? Or would this negatively affect how search engines see my page?
Excellent question. So let me see if I can actually find an example. Get off of this here, just so I can give more context as to what this is referring to. All right, you guys see Google up there?
Yes, we do.
All right, so let me, where's an example off the top of my head? All right, well, I can't think of an exact article where we did this recently, but I'll just pick a random article just to show what this is referring to. So what is call tracking and how does it work? So this right here is the visible title on the page, often referred to as and tagged as the H1 or heading 1. Then this up in the browser bar tab here, and I hover just right, it repeats itself there, but that's the SEO title tag that you can modify and make different than this H1 here. So it's basically, here's your human title, and up there is your search engine title. So the question, can you make them different, and does it hurt if you do? That's a complicated answer. If you change it and simply add more keywords to the SEO one up in the top, then that can actually help, as long as you don't overdo it and stuff it and go into that realm. But if you put your good primary keyword in the SEO title and not in this human visible title here, you're missing out on one of your natural places to use the keywords. So, and this is a very powerful, it's not just any old place. This is a very powerful place, as is that. So they're both powerful. So basically, in short, both of them should have the primary keyword. If they are different, it can help in some cases, or if they're too different and it confuses the search engines as far as context goes, then it can hurt. So we basically say make them the same whenever possible. If there's some other word you want to tack on and like you really, really, really want to get it in there, but you don't like the way it looks here, then you might add it. You know, a lot of times you see like the pipe character and then some additional words in the title tag. You might want to add it that way. But yeah, the short, simple recommendation that we try to stick to is just keep them the same.
And Pam, if it were too different, might it be confusing for the human? Like even almost.
Yes, good point, because this is what shows up in the blue text. This is a brand new article, so it won't be
Right.
just yet. But when you search for, I'll just search for call tracking. This is, you know, see,
Right.
I gotta move this so I can see. Yeah, so barring any ads, skip over the ads. We're just talking about SEO results. These are these SEO title tags, the thing that shows up in the browser bar at the top.
Right.
And you'll see often the pipe character is used to add more keywords. So yeah, it can definitely, you know, help or harm depending upon how you do that. And if it misleads someone, you know, if I make this title tag totally different and I'm like, oh, best inbound call tracking software in 2021, that's what I want to see. And I click on it and that's not really what it is, or that's not what I see as the visible title, then yeah, I might pogo stick. And this is what I meant by pogo sticking. And my pogo stick, right? I could be like, yeah, you know what, that's not, I don't see the 2021 part. So I'm going to bounce back to Google and continue to look for what I want. And that's what you definitely want to avoid. So that misleading angle is a really good point that could harm as well.
And on the topic of pogo sticking, if someone does pogo stick, then is that bad for ranking? Is that actually good because someone at least went to the website for a moment and then left? Or is it neutral and really doesn't affect the website ranking at all?
If you put even two SEO experts in a room, they'll debate that for the next 24 hours. We don't know exactly, but studies have shown that a good click-through rate, meaning, you know, the rate of the number of people who click on something after seeing it, and combined with a low bounce rate, pogo sticking back rate, you know, it correlates, maybe not causes, but causation versus correlation. It correlates with better SEO performance. And it makes sense because, again, bringing humans back into the picture, the better that your website, your titles catch their eye and then satisfy what they wanted, the better your human interaction is going to be on the website. And in turn, those humans will send other humans to your website or link to your website, and the links help for SEO too. So the trickle-down effect will occur.
Right. And I guess, you know, obviously everybody wants to have good SEO results, but you could also have good SEO results and have no sales because the content is not appropriate, not good, or just not good.
Yes. And that goes both ways. You can have the most beautiful website in the world that has no words on it and will never get found and no one will ever find it, but it's beautiful. Or vice versa, you can have the best SEO optimized website in the world, like that piece of crap one that I showed in the beginning. That stuff does work sometimes. If you don't get caught, you know, and penalized by the search engines, it can work, at least for a time. But what human's going to do business with you? Like, it would look ridiculous. So that can definitely go both ways.
Yeah.
Excellent. Another question we had here is, has the formula changed a bit? You know, Google and search engines, are they still looking for a similar number of words? Are they looking for less words these days, maybe more photos or more videos? Or what is that, you know, combination and formula looking like these days?
Excellent question. Yeah, it's changed a lot and it's always changing. Well, I should say evolving. I always try to catch myself from saying changing. People are like, oh, SEO changes all the time. It actually doesn't change in the like core nature of it. It just gets more complex, which sometimes is annoying and difficult, but other times is a good thing. And I think that the way that search engines have gotten more complex with their understanding of content over the past few years is actually a good thing, because we don't have to do it the way we used to have to do it. We used to only use one keyword and no secondary related, like just that stuffing kind of a thing is kind of how we used to have to do it. So now search engines are much better at understanding the intent behind a piece of content, so long as you use the primary enough, and then the secondary should support. Search engines are also a lot better at understanding the intent of the content and the appropriate length for that intent. So whereas studies still do show that high word count tends to work, there are also cases where low word count works just fine, such as product pages. So, you want to buy a pair of sneakers. No one wants to read 1,800 words about a pair of sneakers. It's perfectly appropriate to just have a short paragraph or two describing the sneakers. So search engines are not, they're not so across the board anymore. Mm-hmm. And with regard to video and multimedia content, same thing. It's like when I was talking about checking the context of the results for the right meaning, mm-hmm. Also check the context of the results for the right type of content. Certain queries, certain key phrases that you search for, even if you don't put the word video in them, will show primarily video results. If Google's algorithms have picked up on, there's a lot of artificial intelligence and machine learning in there now. So if Google's machine learning has picked up on the fact that people who search for this thing, even though it doesn't have the word video in it, tend to want to watch a video, mm-hmm. then they're going to fill the results with video results and expect you to have a video for that type of a topic, that particular topic. So it's that quick double check, which I refer to as a quick double check, actually can get a lot more complex these days, but kind of in a good way, because you can check not only does it mean the same thing, but is this one where I can get away with less words, or is this one where I should have a video, and so on and so forth.
And on the lines of other content beyond just the written word, we have a question here asking, why are hyphens between words used in image titling? Is that just stylistically your choice? Does it help or impact SEO? And before you answer that question, I just want to let everyone on the call know I'm about to post a poll just to hear your thoughts about the event. We just want you to complete that before we leave today. But we're going to go ahead and still answer some questions. We still have about 8 minutes left in our day. I just want to let you know you're going to see a poll here on your screen shortly. So hyphens in the images, needed, not needed.
So that may actually be a thing that might be unnecessary at this point because of the more advanced understanding of things by search engines. But where it came from and where I revert to just to be safe is back in the day, search engines couldn't really understand if you needed to make something all together, which it is a good practice not to have actual spaces and file names just for computer web server technology purposes. Search engines would interpret a hyphen as a space, but not an underscore or any other character. So basically, back in the day, the hyphen made sure that the search engines were seeing it as a nice, clean phrase, like running an effective meeting. The hyphens kind of, you could imagine them morphing into spaces. I don't think it's as crucial as it used to be, but with certain things, like I said, the things that SEOs debate back and forth all day long, you got to take a position somewhere. So on that little thing, I say, just do the hyphen thing just to be sure.
Perfect. We did have a follow-up question from someone asking about the pogo sticking a bit. Oh, I lost it. Here you go. Are there pogo sticking bots that are very calculating and diabolical competitor could use to lower someone's site ranking? Is the question. Sorry.
Unfortunately, yes. Also, the opposite exists too. There are bots that can click on things and stay on them and try to make it look like you have a good sticky result. Either way, again, I'd like to think that the search engine technology is much better at picking up on bot activity and how unnatural it is compared to human activity. And with the scale of things going on today, it's very difficult to design a bot that really mimics human activity. You need to be coming from so many different servers and so many different places in the world, so many different devices, so many browsers in order to look like mass real human activity. Mm-hmm. So chances are if a competitor uses that against you, or if you use a click-through rate bot for yourself, chances are neither one is going to really work that well, because Google will probably very easily see it's a bot and ignore it.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And then let's see here. Another question we have is, so the right context for the intent of the article or page, if we see that it's necessarily not the right context, but maybe it helps with your search capabilities, is it a waste of time to still move forward with that content? And most importantly, is it a waste of your money if it's not going to be really highly searchable?
And does it even hurt being in the wrong context? That's probably even more important than the wasted time and even wasted money.
Yeah. If it's straight up misleading, it can hurt. If it's that blatant, it was clearly like the keywords were put there and the content is so clearly not about that thing. It's so obvious the keywords were put there just to rope people in, that can hurt. That you can get demoted or penalized by search engines for that. That's against their terms of service. On the flip side, if you're not going quite to that misleading of an extreme, it probably is just a waste, unless you have some other internal purpose for it. I have had clients say to me, you know what, we're not even going to bother SEO optimizing this one particular article. It's really just for FAQs that our clients ask us, and when they're already being onboarded, and we're just going to have our salespeople send them the link. Like, of course, there's situations where it still may make sense, but if you're going for SEO, and you don't hit that nail on the head with the right sized keywords and the right type of context and the right understanding of the term, you kind of will be wasting time and money.
Awesome. The last question I have here is just talking, and I know you've mentioned it, so it's going to be a little bit of a repeat, I feel, but regarding the density of the keywords, it's always going to be more important to me to sound natural and to speak to a human than it is to speak to the search engine. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, all day long. When we double check copywriters' writing that they submit to us to double check it for keyword optimization, we will all day long, we'll let it go under our recommendation, but not over. We're really making sure they're not going over and that they're getting as close as possible. So we'll look and see if there really was no other place they could have used it naturally, then we'll let it go all day long. Natural is most important. Natural trumps keywords every time. But we will look for opportunities to use it naturally. If we say, oh, well, can we see one more paragraph in there? If you just reworded this like this, we think it will still sound natural and you'll get it in there one more time. We will look for those opportunities. But yeah, no, push comes to shove, natural all day long.
Excellent. We actually then have another question that just came in. How much stock do you put in on the readability scores? Are they worth worrying about, or is a natural feel or flow more important?
Very good question. As is the answer with almost everything in SEO, it depends. It depends on the type of content and the audience for the content. So we have had clients that do molecular engineering, biological molecular engineering. They're talking to scientists that are so advanced and practically don't speak English as far as I'm concerned. Am I worried about readability on a client like that? Not at all. Not at all. If you try to dumb that down to a kindergarten level, you're going to alienate your scientist target audience, your engineers. On the flip side, if your target audience is a younger audience, or just an audience that is really struggling to understand a complex concept, and your whole shtick is breaking down that complex concept, then yeah, I'd put a lot of stock in readability in that kind of a case. So, as is the answer with everything, it depends.
Perfect. Any other questions that anyone else wants to submit? Yes, Anna, I see you put your head up.
Yeah, I have one quick question. Pam, you mentioned about, images and the content that you tie to the images and that they must be accurate. So, how a lot of times images are somewhat symbolic, like reaching a peak, or I guess you still have to say that it's a mountain and maybe try to weave in like success, reaching the peak, or, something along those lines.
Exactly. If you can achieve it where it is accurate and it has the keyword, sometimes that does look like that. Sometimes it looks like saying, an image of a really pretty sunny mountain scene representing success reached in business.
That's perfect.
Representing or indicative
Right.
of or portraying,
Right.
that is a really good.
That's perfect. That was a perfect way to describe it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for all your questions. And Pam, thank you so much. So everybody, I managed to take a lot of notes, really listen, and I have bobcats in my yard. So I managed to somehow not get distracted and listen to every word Pam said. So Pam, thank you. And I'm sure everyone's going to look forward to reviewing this presentation again, because it is hard to take notes and, consume what you're saying. So
yeah, and it's a lot. Fire hose to the face is my thing.
Yes, perfect. We really appreciate you joining us. Thank you, and terrific presentation. And then just one last thing, everybody, keep an eye out on amaphoenix.org. We are going to be posting our next 2 events. So our next event is the Business Education Series, Thursday, April 8th at 3 p.m. And that is April Holly will be speaking. And she's going to be speaking on hub and spoke means customer journey and SEO. So this is a perfect next thing to talk about. Yes.
I know April, she's great, and that's an excellent time.
Great.
That
Excellent.
is a perfect.
She's phenomenal.
Yeah, and we're just trying to, again, all your content leading to your website and making it readable and perfect and valuable. So please join us for that. And then May 5th, lunchtime webinar, Michelle Robin will be talking about what marketers need to get ahead in today's job market. So please join us. Keep an eye out on our website. We will be posting those 2 events very soon. Pam, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Great presentation. And everybody, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, and have a great Wednesday, everybody.